making a little adjustment, sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. My name is Chris Cook, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys this morning. I've been a part of this wonderful community for a little over a year now. I'm a member of the Web of Life. I regularly attend RE in the mornings, and my husband and I organize family feastings for our community. I've also been putting some thought into finding more ways to be involved in our community because I love you guys so much. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious tradition that values freedom in religious thought and journey. We uphold the unity of our inner connections to each other, to all of life, and to the precious universe which we are a part of. We affirm the universality of love and hope as we journey together in community. And on behalf of all of our community, I welcome you, whoever you are in this moment, and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. For those of you joining us for the first time today, whether it be on Facebook or here with us in person, please check out our website, UUFayetteville.org, for more information to sign up and receive a weekly email. You can always unsubscribe if that doesn't suit you. Also, if you are in person, for those of you who are visiting us, you don't have to wait to visit our website. You'll find a visitor information card in the seat back in front of you. We'd love for you to fill one of these out so we can get you on the email list and keep you informed of our happenings. And we have a lot happening, but we'll get more to that at the end of service. Also, later, we'll be doing our joys and concerns. This is the card that you can see in the seat backs in front of you. If you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, we invite you to fill out one of those yellow cards. There's a place on there to indicate if you want to have a joy or concern shared aloud, if you want it to be confidential or shared only with leadership. In a few minutes, we'll have an opportunity to bring those cards up here and to drop a stone if you wish. If you're watching on Facebook, you may write joys and concerns in the comments when the time is ready. Please note that those comments will be public. If you have a need for hearing assistance or anything of that nature, our awesome AV tech David can help you with that. He's in the back over there. Children and their joyful noises are always welcome in our service, but there is a staff nursery available downstairs if you prefer, or should you feel the need to step out for a moment, we have seating in the foyer. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Natalie Emmons. She and her two boys have been members of the fellowship for about 2.5 years. Natalie has a PhD in cognition and culture and is the author of 9 peer-reviewed scientific publications on religious thinking and early science education, which is absolutely awesome and amazing. She currently works at the University of Arkansas in the Office of Provost on Data-Driven Projects and is the Campus Project Coordinator for year-long campus space studies. That sounds amazing. I know all of you are going to enjoy today's service because Dr. Emmons is insightful, inspirational, and very knowledgeable. Thank you, and blessed be.
Thank you, Chris, for that wonderful introduction. So today I'm going to be bringing up the word truth a lot, which can be very controversial. But with that said, we're going to talk about the truth, and I'm just going to start with a poem by Emily Dickinson, who presents truth as an unchanging and stable force. The truth is stirless. Other force may be presumed to move. This, then, is best for confidence. When oldest cedars swerve, and oaks untwist their fist, and mountains feeble lean, how excellent a body that stands without a bone, how vigorous of force that holds without a prop. Truth stays herself, and every man that trusts her boldly up. Thanks.
Please join me as we light the chalice. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another, thus do we come knit together.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, is it on? Hello. Okay. I usually introduce this song as a drinking song because it feels like one. But I was just looking over the lyrics, and it's so pretty to think about someone giving you a rose in the wintertime. A symbol of hope. Anybody in need of hope right now? So anyway, let's sing together. Stand as you're willing and able. Number 346, come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Thank you. Please be seated.
So now we're going to have the story for all ages. Yep.
What are you doing?
By Elisa Amato and Manuel Monroy. "What are you doing?" called Chapito's mother as he ran out the door.
Why?
Sang Chapito. "School starts today, remember? We have to go right after lunch. Don't be late."
I don't want to go to school, Geppetto sang to himself. What are you doing? Asks Geppetto.
Reading the paper, answered the big man.
Why, sang Geppetto.
Yep. To see who won the game, of course.
What are you doing? Asks Geppetto.
I'm reading a comic, answered the girl.
Why? sang Geppetto.
Because Mafalda is so funny.
What are you doing? Asked Geppetto.
Reading this guidebook, answered the young woman.
Why? sang Geppetto.
We're lost. Where are we anyway? Said the young man.
What are you doing? Asked Geppetto.
Reading a manual, answered the greasy mechanic.
Why? sang Geppetto.
Because I can't figure out what's wrong with this stupid car.
What are you doing? Asked Geppetto.
Reading this magazine, answered the young woman.
Why? sang Geppetto.
So I can choose a beautiful new hairdo for the dance tonight.
What are you doing? Asked Geppetto.
Reading the hieroglyphics on the stela, answered the archaeologist.
Why? sang Geppetto.
Because they tell about a war that happened right here more than 1,000 years ago when the Maya kings ruled this place. Geppetto got home just in time. After lunch, Geppetto's mother and his little sister Rosita walked over to the school with him.
Geppetto looked into his classroom. He saw a shelf with books on it and decided to go in. What are you doing? He asked the teacher.
I'm going to read this book to you, she answered.
Geppetto ran all the way home from school. He went in the door and sat down on a chair. He pulled a book out of his bag and...
What are you doing? Said his mother.
I'm reading a book, answered Geppetto.
Did you learn how to read on your first day of school? Asked his mother.
No, but I can tell by the pictures, said Geppetto. Shall I read you the story, Rosita? He asked.
Why?
Geppetto was about to say because it's fun, but before he could, Rosita answered, yes, read it to me.
As a diverse people, we share our various joys and concerns to strengthen the bonds of our community. We invite you to share your ups and downs as you desire. We welcome and cherish all vulnerabilities and celebrations. You may drop a stone, even if you don't fill out a card. You can come to the front and drop a stone for any joy or concern, shared or confidential, expressed or held in your heart. As you drop your stone, may you experience the spreading of love and support. If you filled out a card, you can bring it to me. On the card, please indicate whether your comment is confidential or to be shared. It's the very first question you can mark yes or no to. If you need to stay where you are, feel free to raise the card so someone can get it and bring it up here for you. If you're attending virtually, you may write your joys and concerns in the comments at this time. Please note those comments will be public and shared because there isn't a way to share in confidentiality on Facebook. Natalie, will you provide the stones for today's joys and concerns? May we all feel the energetic embrace of our community and the interconnectedness of all life around us as we participate in this ritual together. Please come forward now. Sorry, it's my first time doing this. Okay. So we have a lot of joys and concerns today. Thank you, David. Natalie, would you drop stones for joys and concerns not spoken today? May we drop another stone for joys and concerns we will experience in the coming week. As we move forward into our week, may we remember this moment when we were surrounded by like-hearted people who we hold dear. A moment where we're not alone and where we are in oneness with each other. Let's take a deep breath as one together now and have a moment of silence as we hold all of these joys and concerns in our hearts. Please breathe with me now. Thank you, dear ones. Blessed be.
Hello again. So this semester I taught University Perspectives for the first time at the University of Arkansas. And this course is the freshman seminar that most freshmen have to take when they start their academic journey at the U of A. And it uses the text, The Excellent Mind, shown here, by Dr. Nathan King. And Nathan King is a professor of philosophy at Whitworth University. So from the get-go, I was very excited to teach this course because it focuses on the intellectual virtues. As a child, I asked a lot of questions and was always very studious, and that hasn't changed over the course of my life. I bought into higher education, and I have a PhD from an interdisciplinary institute, and I consider myself truly a lifelong learner who places a lot of value on intellectualism, which was one of the reasons I was attracted to Unitarian Universalism. I very much enjoyed learning about the intellectual virtues alongside my students this semester, and I'm excited to speak today on how these virtues fit into the UU framework, because there is a lot of overlap. So as it turns out, elements of the intellectual virtues are embedded in our principles, and more recently, our shared values. Principle 4, which many of us are familiar with, reads and recognizes that we have a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. This year, the UUA voted to replace the principles with 6 shared values. And our value pluralism reads, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. So it seems to me that our free and responsible search for truth and meaning is now embedded within a broader framework of learning from others and valuing diversity in thought and experience. And this notion of individuals taking responsibility for discovering their own truth and meaning sets Unitarian Universalism apart from other religions that are much more prescriptive about what people should believe. We leave that up to the individual. So how then do we engage in this process? What does it look like to be virtuous in these pursuits? Thankfully, Dr. Nathan King shares many insights which we can apply to all areas of our life. In his book, King starts by discussing why good thinking matters. He shares that each of us has not just a moral character, but also an intellectual character. When it comes to our thinking, we can be intellectually courageous or cowardly. We can be intellectually humble or arrogant. We can be curious or indifferent, and so on. Our intellectual character guides how we think and what we believe. Our beliefs, in turn, guide our actions. Our actions are of crucial importance because they affect not only ourselves, but those around us. Intellectual virtues have a great deal of practical importance. They help us discern how to achieve success and avoid aimlessness and failure. They help us think wisely about what's worth wanting and carefully about how to achieve it. They help us make loving decisions about complicated matters, especially when under duress. The intellectual virtues also allow us to engage in responsible citizenship. As Thomas Jefferson observed, the basis of our government is the opinion of the people. Our beliefs or opinions influence our voting behavior, along with the rest of our civic activity. Ultimately, these virtues allow us to become better thinkers in all areas of life. Intellectually virtuous people seek answers that are true and are driven to understand why things are the way they are. They are skilled at thinking critically and open to changing one's mind when presented with new evidence. So let's look at the intellectual virtues in turn and discuss what each of them mean. Again, this is just a brief introduction, and we'll talk more about the book later, but there's a lot more examples and discussion in the book, of course. So out of this list, we'll start with autonomy. And autonomy is about thinking for yourself. Autonomous thinkers think independently. They do not overly rely on others. They strike out boldly in new directions. In my experience, UUs are generally very virtuous in thinking for themselves. So we can all give ourselves a pat on the back for this one. I think that's something we all share in common, that we're willing to strike out boldly in new directions and challenge other ways of thinking. So the next one on the list is honesty, which is about not distorting the truth. Honest thinkers tell the truth, or at least the truth as they see it. They avoid lying, bluffing, misleading people about their motivations, and other distortions. Being honest seems simple enough. The key is noticing when we are bending the truth or allowing others to believe things about our motivations that are not true. And we are all guilty of doing this to some degree, whether conscious or unconscious. The important thing is to catch ourselves, when we catch ourselves fibbing or bluffing, to really ask ourselves why we're not being completely honest or allowing people to believe things that aren't quite true about us. We should challenge ourselves to ask why we're lying and strive to practice honesty as part of open and healthy communication. The next one is on perseverance, which is about overcoming obstacles. Perseverant thinkers overcome obstacles to their getting, keeping, and sharing knowledge. They do not give up easily. They persist in their intellectual projects. And this can be a rare virtue to achieve because it's often easier to give up when faced with a difficult intellectual challenge. We must learn to be comfortable with failure and setbacks to be able to obtain this virtue. The next one on the list is courage, which is about persisting despite threats. So this is closely related to perseverance. But in this case, we're persisting despite threats that get in the way of our intellectual projects. And courageous thinkers they continue in these pursuits even when this is dangerous or painful. During this semester, courage was the first intellectual virtue that we discussed with my freshman class. And we discussed Galileo, who was persecuted for announcing that the earth was not the center of the universe. And Nathan King gives me many examples, but we talk about Galileo because he is a really good example of intellectual courage. Despite being threatened by the Catholic Church, Galileo didn't back down from his big idea that was backed up by scientific inquiry. And he ended up being put on trial and was sentenced to house arrest until his death. So many people who have helped advance our understanding of how the world works were persecuted for sharing these ideas. And it seems like the church lacked the next virtue on the list, which is open-mindedness. So we'll talk about open-mindedness a little bit more later, but briefly, open-mindedness is about transcending your perspective. Open-minded thinkers transcend their own perspectives by taking the views and merits of other views seriously. And so we have to be open-minded to be open to new ideas that have not been presented before. So that's a brief introduction to those first set of virtues, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about the next four virtues, which are a bit more complex and nuanced. In my opinion, this next set of virtues are a little harder to develop because we must recognize and overcome our own biases, which we have plenty of those too. I'll let you digest this slide for a minute. Curiosity. So curiosity is about having a healthy appetite for knowledge. Curious thinkers cultivate a healthy appetite for truth, knowledge, and understanding. They ask good questions and are disposed to seek good answers. Sometimes curiosity gets a bad rap and is considered a vice. The classic phrase, "curiosity killed the cat," warns us of the dangers that curious behavior may bring. In his book, Nathan King discusses how in order to be truly virtuous, we have to have the right objects, occasions, motives, and means when exercising virtues like curiosity. He calls this hitting the target, which we can see on your right side of the screen. And when we have the wrong objects, motives, and so on, our curiosity is not virtuous. And you can see what some of these wrong motives and means look like: showing off, wrong object, gossip, wrong occasion, irrelevant questioning, and so on. And so on. And we have to use our other intellectual virtues to decide what kinds of things are worth being curious about and avoid empty knowledge and low-value activities. Asking questions is generally good for gaining knowledge and truth, but the answers to some questions have more value than others. For example, knowing what it is to live a good life is more valuable than knowing whether most scientists prefer wearing glasses or contact lenses. And sometimes we get caught up on these low-value curiosities, and that's fine, but we do need to, our time is limited. The time that we have to invest in intellectual questions is limited, and we have to know which questions are worth asking and pursuing. So King concludes that curiosity is the starting point of inquiry and the cornerstone for anyone who wants to build an excellent mind. So never stop being virtuously curious. Okay, carefulness, another favorite. Carefulness is about minding your evidence. Careful thinkers make serious efforts to avoid falsehood and irrationality. As a means to this, they seek to base their beliefs on good evidence. They attend to the proper rules for assessing evidence. Carefulness repels us from falsehood and unreasonable belief. In many areas, we are highly fallible. Psychologists have identified more than 180 cognitive biases which can lead to thinking errors. And you can see just a few of these on the slide. It's really fun to study about our cognitive biases because then we can recognize them when we see them out in the world. So a few of these on the slide, we have the anchoring bias, which is when people are over-reliant on the first piece of information they hear. There's the bandwagon effect, where people are more likely to say they believe something or will do something if other people have gone first. My favorite used to be the confirmation bias, which is when we only pay attention to information that aligns with what we already believe, which we see everywhere and all of the time. But now I know about the blind spot bias, which is my new favorite, which is failing to recognize your own cognitive biases. So, and we all have blind spots, for sure. And that's the point. We all have biases that affect our thinking and reasoning. And through careful thinking, we can try to address these biases and at least understand that they're there, and sometimes we need to pause and think about whether or not we are being biased in our thinking and how so. So again, careful thinking means recognizing and correcting for our biases. And it can mean comparing different pieces of evidence, analyzing information, and breaking it down into smaller pieces of study, and challenging the status quo and challenging your own beliefs as well. Humility. I like this one because I feel like in our society, we're not encouraged to be humble thinkers. We're a highly individualistic society, and it's all about being number one, being on top, being the best. And we don't do as good of a job in encouraging people to practice humility when engaging in intellectual problems. So humble thinkers are aware of their intellectual limitations, and they own these by trying to correct them, correct for them, or accept them. It's okay. We all have weaknesses. We can accept that. Humble thinkers are willing to admit their mistakes and update their beliefs when presented with compelling evidence. They care more about the truth and less about being right. And this can be hard for many people because of our self-serving biases and our tendency to want to protect our own ego. By practicing intellectual humility, we can approach problems and counter evidence with the recognition that we may not have all the information. And we could be biased and probably are biased in our thinking. Humility can also help us more accurately evaluate our weaknesses and work towards addressing them. And if we're unable to address a weakness, we can humbly acknowledge it and focus on our strengths. The last virtue we will discuss is fair-mindedness, which is closely related to open-mindedness. So I decided to focus more on this one because in order to be fair-minded, we have to be open-minded. We have to be open to other perspectives. To take it a step further, fair-minded thinkers assess competing views even-handedly and avoid giving extra weight to their own opinions. They don't deliberately misrepresent others' views in order to make those views seem weak. They don't easily attribute bad motives or lack of intelligence or character to others. A fair-minded approach in our thinking means maintaining a belief due to the reasons that support it, rather than because it's our belief or one we want to be true, or because it aids our political agenda or keeps our group on top. Fair-mindedness means making space for others' opinions and viewpoints and giving them fair intellectual consideration. Now, this is not about being nice or just accepting any idea that comes along. Nathan King talks about the difference between being nice and being fair-minded. And fair-mindedness is about really evaluating evidence, but being open to other arguments and positions and evaluating that evidence fairly. Like with carefulness and humility, fair-mindedness means that we must overcome our own biases so we can recognize when we're not giving equal consideration to viewpoints that differ from our own. And this is also true for viewpoints that may come from a group to which we don't belong. So how do we grow in intellectual virtue now that we've heard a little bit about them? To recap, intellectually virtuous thinkers believe things like truth, knowledge, and understanding are valuable. These things are valuable independently of their tendency to get us goodies like wealth, credentials, good grades, or prestige. It is bad for a person to hold false beliefs or be ignorant about important topics, and the pursuit of knowledge is an important part of a good life. To grow in our virtues, we must adopt a growth mindset, which many UUs have, for sure. We're always trying to get better, and we need to believe that growth and change is possible. Once we believe change is possible, we can reflect on how well we practice the intellectual virtues and consider ways to improve. Studying the topic is another way to grow. Learning more about a topic is a good way to get better at it, right? So reading King's books and articles on intellectual virtues is a good starting point for the serious student. And lastly, we can find mentors who can give us honest feedback on how we're doing if we feel that we really need another perspective on the matter. A lot of times people know us better than we know ourselves and can give us more objective feedback on how we're doing and more accurate perspectives. So how do we know if we or others are intellectually virtuous? Well, King says that intellectually virtuous thinkers are in the habit of practicing the virtues. They do so across time and situations. Most of the time, in appropriate circumstances, we can count on virtuous thinkers to display their excellence. So again, we're not going to hit the mark every time. We're not perfect, and we're not aiming to be perfect. But consistency in trying to uphold the virtues is important for being excellent. In other words, to be excellent, we must be consistent in our application of the virtues. And with a growth mindset, we can embrace this challenge, knowing there is always more to learn and opportunities to improve our thinking. And with that, I will pause and let you guys reflect on the intellectual virtues. Thank you.
That was awesome, Natalie. Thank you. Now it's time for the offering. The important work of this fellowship is possible because of your contributions of time, energy, and money. Every contribution of every size is helpful and appreciated. As we pass the offering baskets, we invite you to share financially. If you prefer, you may give online at uufayetteville.org or via text message. It's normally up there. Yep, it's up there. Or you can mail checks to our office. Will the hosts please come forward and pass the offering baskets? While Brenda, will you share your beautiful music with us?
Okay, we have 10 minutes, so I have time to tell you a quick story. Okay, you guys know I'm a school counselor at an elementary school, and I was talking with a student about the movie Inside Out 2, which is amazing. And I was like, oh, this movie was so good. And I turned to this little girl, and this was a small group of kids, and I was like, oh, Daphne, did you go see Inside Out 2? And she said, no, my mom won't let me go see it because it's woke. You guys, when did woke become a bad word? And why? Like, I'm just saying. So the song that we're about to sing is called Wake. But you could sing it like woke. Woke now my senses. Because listen to these things. Reason, compassion, conscience, vision. Why are those bad things? Shall we reclaim the word woke? I'm just saying. All right, if you want to sing, you can sing Stand As You're Willing and Able, number 298. Woke now my senses. Beautiful. Thank you. Please be seated.
Please join me as we extinguish the flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Wow, that was beautiful. Announcements are on the screen and in your order of service on the back here. As you all can see, we have a lot going on within our community. I wanted to take a moment to say, I know that we are entering uncertain times. I know that everyone here has concerns about the future. I know I do. So I want to encourage you to lean on this community and each other. Get involved in any of our committees, events, or gatherings to find a sense of stability, a sense of comfort through the bonds of community, collaboration, and fellowship. We need each other now more than ever. So I want to highlight a few things real quick. Our annual Thanksgiving potluck will be held at UUFF on Thanksgiving this coming Thursday, November 28th. Setup is at 12 p.m. The meal is at 1 p.m. and games are after. Everybody loves games. Playing is very important. Sign up online. There is a link in the weekly email, or you can sign up on the sheet in the foyer. Our bread service will be December 1st this year. Bring bread, cut ready to share, and spreads and baskets by 10 a.m. for this special service. Also, a reminder, this was, when I was like typing on my phone when I first came up here very rudely, it was to type this. A reminder of the congressional meeting on December 15th after service. Please attend. And finally, we're on Instagram. Woo! We'd like to encourage you all to like our new Instagram account. So please do that. With all the love in my heart, thank you for being here today. Oh, was that the one I was asked to? Oh, okay, sorry, this is a new one. We are seeking volunteers to help from a circle of welcome in Canopy NWA. We learned about that a couple weeks ago. Canopy is a nonprofit organization that works to put support systems in place to help refugees, immigrants, and folks of other vulnerabilities navigating the challenges of resettling, which is a lot. If you are interested in being a part of this effort at UUFF, please contact Gene Vincent. He's back there. He's standing up. And his email is on the screen. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Just one more announcement. Reverend Renee wanted everyone to remember there are runoff elections for mayor and city council in Fayetteville.
Yeah, so there are runoff elections for the city council and mayor in Fayetteville.
There's a city council race in Prairie Grove.
And in Prairie Grove in Fayetteville.
Voting begins next week at the courthouse on Tuesday, and then on December 3rd, which is election day, you can vote at any of the Fayetteville vote centers, and there is also a center in Prairie Grove.
So early voting is on Tuesday at the courthouse. Is that right? It begins on Tuesday, and then it is in December 3rd. December 3rd. Yes. With all the love in my heart, thank you for being here today. Thank you for existing alongside me and making our community as special as it is. That's all I have, and I'm going to turn you back over to Natalie for closing words. Blessed be, dear ones.
Okay, so for my closing words, I will share a quote from UU Reverend Paige Getty on the topic of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And I want you to try to listen. Now that you've heard about the intellectual virtues, I want you to try to listen for these virtues being referenced in this quote. As responsible religious seekers, we recognize that we are privileged to be free, to have resources to pursue life beyond mere survival, to continually search for truth and meaning, to exist beyond bonds of dogma and oppression, and to wrestle freely with truth and meaning as they evolve. This privilege calls us not to be isolated and self-centered, believing that our single perspective trumps all others, but rather to be humble, to be open to the great mysteries of truth and meaning that life offers. And those mysteries may speak to us through our own intuition and experience, but also through tradition, community, conflict, nature, and relationships. As a faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism makes sacred the right and responsibility to engage in this free and responsible quest as an act of religious devotion. Institutionally, we have left open the questions of what truth and meaning are, acknowledging that mindful people will, in every age, discover new insights. So I hope we all leave today's service feeling a little smarter, a little wiser, and more resolute in our search for truth and meaning. Thank you all.